On this eerie night, whispers of pumpkins glowing in the moonlight, jack-o'-lanterns carve with faces so bright, an otherworldly sight, a haunting delight. The Halloween podcast tells tales of fright. Pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns come alive in the darkness where the spirits thrive. Listen closely, hear their ghostly cries on this night where the veil between worlds lies. The Halloween podcast tells tales of fright.
Hello and welcome to another spine-chilling episode of the Halloween podcast. I am your host, Lyle Perez. I hope you enjoyed that little intro song, and if you'd like to hear the entire thing, make sure you listen all the way to the end of this episode so you can hear it. Today, it's my triumphant return to the Halloween podcast. We're diving into the eerie and fascinating history of pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns. From ancient myths to modern Halloween traditions, this gourd has a tale that's sure to send shivers down your spine. So light your lanterns, grab a cozy blanket, and prepare for a journey into the spooky past. Our story begins thousands of years ago. Pumpkins are native to North America, where indigenous people have been cultivating them for over 7,500 years. These early pumpkins were quite different from the bright orange orbs we know today. They were smaller, harder, and more varied in color. They were an essential food source valued for their flesh and seeds, which provided vital nutrients during harsh winters. But how did these humble gourds become the stars of our Halloween celebrations? To understand that, we need to travel to ancient Ireland, where the Celtic festival of Samhain marked the end of the harvest season and the beginning of winter. This festival, celebrated on October 31st, was a time when the veil between the living and the dead was thought to be at its thinnest, allowing spirits to roam the earth. The Celts believed that spirits both good and evil wandered the earth during Samhain. To ward off these malevolent spirits, they carved faces into large turnips, beets, and potatoes, placing embers or candles inside to create lanterns. These eerie creations were known as jack-o'-lanterns, inspired by the legend of Stingy Jack. Stingy Jack was a cunning and deceitful man who tricked the devil himself. According to the legend, Jack invited the devil to have a drink with him. True to his nature, Jack didn't want to pay for the drink, so he convinced the devil to turn himself into a coin that Jack could use to buy their drinks. Once the devil did so, Jack pocketed the coin, placing it next to the silver cross that prevented the devil from changing back. Eventually, Jack freed the devil under the condition that he wouldn't bother Jack for a year, and if Jack died, the devil wouldn't claim his soul. The next year, Jack tricked the devil again, trapping him in a tree by carving a cross into the bark. This time, Jack demanded that the devil not bother him for 10 years. When Jack finally died, the legend says God wouldn't allow such an unsavory figure into heaven, and the devil, true to his word, wouldn't allow Jack into hell. Instead, the devil sent Jack off into the dark night with only a burning coal to light his way. Jack put the coal into a carved-out turnip and has been roaming the earth ever since. A ghostly figure known as Jack of the Lantern, or, more simply, Jack-o'-lantern. Pretty cool. When Irish immigrants brought this tradition to America, they discovered that pumpkins, which were native to their new home, were much easier to carve than the turnips of their homeland. Thus, the American pumpkin became the new face of the jack-o'-lantern, and a Halloween icon was born. Pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns have since become central to Halloween celebrations. Carving pumpkins into spooky faces and scenes is an art form in itself, bringing families and communities together each autumn. Pumpkin carving contests, pumpkin patches, and even pumpkin-themed foods and drinks. Who could forget the beloved pumpkin spice latte? All of these items play a big part in making Halloween a magical time of year. I guess that's kind of why we love them, huh? Speaking of pumpkin patches, they've become a beloved tradition for families and friends during the Halloween season. Visiting a pumpkin patch isn't just about picking the perfect pumpkin. It's about the experience. Wandering through rows of pumpkins, enjoying hay rides, navigating through corn mazes, all while sipping hot apple cider. These activities create cherished memories that last a lifetime. Some pumpkin patches have even made national news for their size, creativity, and the community impact. One such example is the famous Half Moon Bay Art and Pumpkin Festival in California. This annual event draws thousands of visitors every year and features a world-famous pumpkin weigh-off, where growers from across the country compete to see who has cultivated the largest pumpkin. Some of these giants weigh over a ton. That's what got me inspired to start my own pumpkin farm. Now, for the past couple of years, I've been MIA, and I know I'm really sorry about that, guys, but I haven't been around for, I think it's been 2 years since the last time I released an episode. And honestly, I've missed it so much. I've missed hanging out with you guys. I've missed all of the Halloween topics that we used to cover here on the Halloween podcast. I missed it all. And earlier this year, I was walking through, I think it was Lowe's, it might have been Walmart, one of the two, and I saw some pumpkin seeds, and I was like, man, I want to try growing some pumpkins this year. And then I saw a packet of like giant pumpkins, and I was like, well, I got to try some of those too. So this year I was like, I'm going to try it and see what happens. I got a little piece of land, and I started throwing all of my pumpkin seeds in there, and it's turning out pretty good. So far, I only have one Casper pumpkin growing. I have a few jack-o'-lantern pumpkins growing. My giant pumpkin still hasn't gotten anything yet, but I'm hoping really soon, if I just keep watering that thing, it'll sprout out a huge pumpkin for me. So in a couple of months, we'll see how many pumpkins I ended up with, but that's what really got me motivated to do the Halloween podcast, thus why pumpkins is my return episode. So let's continue with the episode now. Another notable mention is the Pumpkin Festival in Keene, New Hampshire, known for its attempt to set the world record for the most lit jack-o'-lanterns in one place. This festival has become a symbol of community spirit and Halloween fun. The sight of thousands of glowing pumpkins is truly magical and attracts visitors from all over. And let's not forget Morton, Illinois, the self-proclaimed pumpkin capital of the world. Home to the Libby's pumpkin processing plant, Morton hosts an annual pumpkin festival that includes a parade, carnival, and plenty of pumpkin-themed treats. This festival celebrates the town's pumpkin heritage and its significant contribution to the pumpkin products we enjoy every fall. Now let's take a spooky detour into literature. Pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns have become prominent symbols in Halloween-themed stories and books. One of the most famous appearances is in Washington Irving's The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. In this classic tale, the ghostly figure of the Headless Horseman is often depicted carrying or using a flaming pumpkin as a substitute for a severed head, creating an iconic image that has endured through the ages. In Ray Bradbury's The Halloween Tree, pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns play a central role in the story's exploration of Halloween's origins and traditions. The novel follows a group of children who travel through time and space guided by the mysterious Mr. Moundshroud, to discover the ancient roots of their beloved holiday. Along the way, they learned about the different forms of Halloween celebrations, with jack-o'-lanterns symbolizing the transition from the old world to the new. And who could forget, it's the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown by Charles Schwartz. In this beloved story, Linus waits in the pumpkin patch for the Great Pumpkin, a mythical figure he believes will rise and bring gifts to sincere believers. Although the pumpkin never appears, Linus's faith with the iconic imagery of the pumpkin patch have become an enduring part of Halloween's pop culture. Pumpkins also make a chilling appearance in Stephen King's Children of the Corn, where a malevolent entity known as He Who Walks Behind the Rose lurks in the cornfields and pumpkin patches of rural America. This terrifying tale has been adapted into numerous films, solidifying the pumpkin's association with horror and the supernatural. Beyond their spooky faces and their, let's admit it, unique flavor, pumpkins have a deep cultural significance. They represent the harvest, abundance, and the cycle of life and death, perfectly embodying the spirit of Halloween. As you carve your jack-o'-lantern this year, remember the rich history behind this tradition and the many generations who have found light and protection in these glowing gourds. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this pumpkin-filled journey through time. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the Halloween podcast for more haunted histories, chilling tales, and all things spooky. If you have any questions, comments, or want to suggest something for a future show, send me an email at thehalloweenpodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/thehalloweenpodcast. Feel free to share your jack-o'-lantern stories with us there. And before we go, I have a special announcement. Next week's episode is all about the 5 most haunted hotels. So if you have any stories about a haunted hotel experience, I'd love to hear them. Share your eerie encounters with us on either our Facebook page or send me an email, thehalloweenpodcast@gmail.com, and I might just feature your story in our next episode. So until then, happy Halloween, guys, and I will see you later. Have a good night.
On this eerie night, whispers of pumpkins glowing in the moonlight, jack-o'-lanterns carve with faces so bright, another worldly sight, a haunting delight. The Halloween podcast tells tales of fright. Pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns come alive in the darkness where the spirits thrive. Listen closely, hear their ghostly cries on this night where the veil between worlds lies. The Halloween podcast tells tales of fright. Pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns come alive in the darkness where the spirits thrive. Listen closely, hear the ghostly cries on this night where the veil between worlds lies. Stories of pumpkins with secrets untold, whispered by the wind in whispers cold. Jack-o'-lanterns flicker, their stories unfold in the Halloween night where mysteries unfold. In the shadows, the pumpkins dance. Pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns come alive in the darkness where the spirits thrive. Listen closely, hear their ghostly cries on this night where the veil between worlds lies. In the shadows, the pumpkins dance. Pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns come alive in the darkness where the spirits thrive. Listen closely, hear their ghostly cries on night where the veil between